everybody, for coming to the Torres podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. And I think my only real takeaways on the game itself was you could tell what this game meant based on the emotions of those involved. The Notre Dame fans were in shock. The Notre Dame players were in shock. I mean, I can picture in my head right now Sam Hartman just staring blankly, just having no idea what just happened to him. But you know who was the most emotional person of all after that game? It was Ryan freaking Day, which we got to talk about, because as good as the game was, and it was an all-timer, and I'll share some thoughts later. The story of this game, it was partly the Ohio State win. It was partly what it means for them, for Notre Dame, for the playoff picture, whatever. But it was really what happened after the game. As out of all people in the world, Ryan Day called out Lou Holtz after this game. Lou freaking Holtz. Ryan Day called him out in the post-game interview and then again in the press conference. And so I want to get into it. I want to give you some context, but this is just a wild thing. If you had Ryan Day calling out Lou Holtz on your bingo card, drive straight to Vegas, bet everything you own on red or black you pick, because this is just surreal. So let me give you a little bit of a backstory here and where this all stemmed from. And I had no idea at the time, but Notre Dame was honoring their 1988 national championship team over the weekend. That part I kind of knew. But why I bring it up, Lou Holtz and so many of his former players were back on campus. And Lou Holtz, like you tend to do, you're returning to the old, it's not his alma mater, but, you know, the school that he led to glory 35 years ago. And he's doing the media rounds before the game. And on Friday, he sat down with Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is in town with College Game Day. He always does his show from the site of College Game Day on Friday. And so Lou Holtz sits down and does Pat McAfee. And as you can imagine, it's a pro Notre Dame crowd. They're on Notre Dame's campus. The legendary Notre Dame head coach is there. So you can imagine there's a lot of Notre Dame fans behind him. And not surprisingly, Pat McAfee, like he should, asked Lou Holtz what he expected from this game. Well, here is what Lou Holtz had to say about Ryan Day, Ohio State, and Saturday's game. Starts out instantly enough. Who does Lou Holtz, remember, the former Notre Dame head coach, think is going to win? He says Notre Dame is a better football team than Ohio State. And let me tell you why. We have the best offensive line in the country. Sam Hartman won't even get his jersey dirty all year. He has time to throw the football. We have great running backs. This team is averaging about 10 yards per carry. We have great receivers. So offensively, we're set. Defensively, our defensive line's better. Then he continued, and this is where it gets interesting. He said, you look at Coach Day, and I coached at Ohio State under Woody Hayes. We won the national championship when I was there. I'm proud of that. However, he has lost to Alabama, lost to Georgia, Clemson, Michigan twice. And everybody that beats him does so because they are more physical than Ohio State. And I think Notre Dame will take the same approach. So I had not heard that. I'm sure most of you had not heard that. Now, Pat McAfee's great at what he does, huge audience, but I'm guessing most of you had not heard that. Well, the one person who did hear that was Ryan Day, because after the game, in an interview with NBC, he is asked about his thoughts on the victory. He starts talking about we're tough, we're this, we're that. And then he gets to this. This is an exact quote. Wish we had the video. We will someday get the technology to be able to just play you the audio. But here is what Ryan Day had to say. I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now. What he said about our team, I cannot believe. This is a tough team right here. We're proud to be from Ohio. It's always been Ohio against the world, and it'll continue to be Ohio against the world. But I'll tell you what, I love those kids. We've got a tough team. So how about Ryan Day coming back at Lou Holtz? And I'll be honest, when I heard this, first of all, I heard it live. It was unbelievable. And I really had three thoughts on this audio, okay? The first one was, first, I just thought it was objectively hysterical. I was like, where did Lou Holtz come from? Like, how did Lou Holtz get involved? And then I'll be honest, I did love Ryan Day fighting for his team. Ohio State against everybody. Ohio State versus the world. Ohio versus the world, whatever, you get the point. But then the third thing happened. As I really thought about it, I'm doing my Fox Sports radio show, and it really struck me. I said, Ryan Day's talking about Lou Holtz calling his team soft. And I'll be blunt. I kind of feel like This actually makes Ryan Day look soft, and let me explain. And before I do, I know we're going to have Ohio State fans jump in, and I am maybe like the one neutral person on Ryan Day. I'm not going to go minute by minute, game by game over his whole resume. But I think I understand both sides of the Ryan Day resume. If you want to say he's 49-6, has won 3 Big Ten championships, has made 3 college football playoffs, I think that is a very salient argument that he is a darn good football coach. What I think a lot of other people would say, and I think I skew more towards this side, is a couple things. One, he did indisputably inherit the best situation maybe in college football history. Ryan Day takes over for Urban Meyer, infrastructure set, the staff stays the same, and he has it pretty good. He has, as Lou Holtz said, the program I think has regressed a little bit, okay? That's maybe my opinion, but they are 49-6. But at the same time, as I say all the time, Ohio State's job and the job of the Ohio State coach is not to beat Indiana or Rutgers or Purdue or Illinois or even Iowa. It is to beat Michigan. It is to go to the college football playoff. It is to win national championships, win Big Ten championships along the way. So those are the 3 things. Beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win a national championship. And everybody knows you're not going to do it every year, but they have not beaten Michigan since 2019. Now, admittedly, they did not play a game in 2020 because of COVID, but they're on an 0-for-2 losing streak to Michigan. They have not won the Big Ten the last 2 years, and they obviously have not made the playoff, or they have not won a national championship under Ryan Day. Now, to Ryan Day's credit, they've been competitive. They've had some tough losses. Georgia last year, Clemson in 2019. But at the same time, I don't think what Lou Holtz said was unfair. I do think they've been a little bit soft in big games. And I do think that him specifically calling out Lou Holtz makes him look soft. And why is that? Because I think some people would sit there and say, well, Torres, he's just defending his players. Okay, I get defending your players. And I get a coach standing up for his team. I get why Deion Sanders was mad at Jay Norvell last week. No problem with that. Understood where Deion Sanders was coming from. I understand where Dan Lanning was coming from, and we'll talk about it later in the show, trying to protect his team and his players. What Dan Lanning was really saying, spoiler alert for later, is like, I get that Colorado's got a top 20 team, and we're really excited to play them, but we got good players. We're really good too. We got ourselves a Heisman caliber quarterback. Why don't you stop asking about the other team and start asking about us? So I don't have no problem with what Dan Lanning did. I have no problem with what Deion Sanders did. I had no problem with Deion Sanders calling out reporters for having receipts. But at the same time, think about who Ryan Day called out on Saturday. He called out an 86-year-old, not his contemporary, not a guy he's coaching against, not a guy who called him out in a public press conference. Called out an 86-year-old former Notre Dame head coach who was in front of a pro Notre Dame crowd trying to rally them before a big game. Lou Holtz is essentially a Notre Dame cheerleader at this point in his career. He's essentially the mascot. He is on campus to get people fired up, excited about this game. What did you think he was going to say? We're probably going to lose because they have better players. Like, no, he's Lou Holtz. He's the Notre Dame last national championship winning coach. Of course he's going to have Notre Dame's back. Of course he's going to get people fired up. By the way, Ryan Day, a couple other things. Don't give me this whole, I'm so offended for my players. I was thinking about this. I actually texted a coach this on Sunday morning. How many of his players do you even think know who Lou Holtz is? Remember, Lou Holtz hasn't been on TV since 2015, okay? That means his freshmen, that was 8 years ago. His current freshmen were 10 years old. So I guarantee none of his players remember Lou Holtz as a coach. I barely do, and I'm in my 30s. But I don't even remember how many of them would know him from TV. I don't even know how many of them would know him from TV, excuse me. Like, I don't think that in the pantheon of disrespect, an 86-year-old who none of your players know, like, is going to fire up the locker room that much. By the way, one other thought I had about this. Ryan Day, you did coach kind of scared on Saturday night. Now, it was a great game. But let's not forget, the series before, you had the game-winning drive. You had a 4th down opportunity, 4th and short. You could do the Woody Hayes, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You could do the physical, we're going to prove how tough you are. You ran a jet sweep. It got stopped. Earlier in the game, You had a situation, 4th down, red zone, goal line, could punch the ball in 1 yard, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, as Woody Hayes would say. You threw a pass that was incomplete. So don't sell me on you kind of coached a little scared. Your teams have not been great in big games. I didn't even get into all of it, but 2 losses to Michigan. I know the Georgia loss was tough, but they haven't been great in big games. And you coach kind of scared in this game. And so again, I have no problem with a coach protecting his players. But if it's a current player, if it's a current head coach, if it's a current assistant coach, if it's Dion versus Jay Norvell, if it's Dan Lanning versus Dion, I get it. I respect it. But Lou Holtz, give me a break. And you know what I think that rant said to me? And by the way, I think I mentioned it, but he went back at Lou Holtz in the post-game press conference. You know what that rant said to me? I don't know if Ryan Day thinks his team is soft. I think he is a little bit soft. And I think he is the one feeling the pressure. I think he is the one that knew what was at stake if his team actually lost on Saturday. I think he's the one that maybe doesn't know the exact number of days since the last time Ohio State beat Michigan, but we're closing in on probably close to 1,000 at this point because it was 2019 the last time Ohio State beat Michigan. I think he's the one that knows what's at stake if Ohio State doesn't make the college football playoff, if they don't beat Michigan this year, if they don't win the Big Ten this year, because ultimately they've made all the changes, right? They've changed the defensive coordinator. They've changed the offensive line coach. They've gotten physical. They're older. They're experienced. They're veteran. They've used the transfer portal. And so what that said to me, listen, it was entertaining as hell. I really liked it. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, why is Ryan Day letting an 86-year-old guy get in his head unless Ryan Day knows that there's some truth to what Lou Holtz said? Now, the good news is Ohio State, even though they were a little soft on 3rd downs, I thought they were pretty physical in this game. And they got plenty more chances to prove it. But like I said, in big games, 2 straight losses against Michigan. Penn State last year, you were trailing going into the 4th quarter, and then Sean Clifford started coughing up the ball left and right. Notre Dame last year, you won 21-10 against a 4-loss Notre Dame team. It's not as though Ryan Day has dominated these games. And again, when you're the Ohio State coach, you're expected to win big every game, beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, go to the college football playoff. Nobody cares about what you do against Youngstown State. Nobody cares about what you do against Indiana. Nobody cares about what you do against Rutgers, Purdue, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin. They care about Michigan, Big Ten championships, national championships. So Ryan Day, I appreciate you protecting your guys, but you looked kind of soft going up against